This is the Hoka Mach X3, and this is its sibling, the Mach 6. Hoka describes one of these shoes as a lively trainer and the other as a propulsive speed training partner. But which is which? It's time to lace up the Mach X3 and the Mach 6 and take them for a ride. Yo, what's going on? My name is Kofuzi and I'm a non-elite runner who reviews running shoes here on YouTube, and today I want to talk to you guys all about the Hoka Mach X3. But before I give you my thoughts on this shoe, I do want to go over some disclosures. This is a pair of shoes that Hoka sent to me for the purpose of review, so I didn't have to pay for these shoes. However, nobody's paying me to make this video or to include their brand in this video, and no one's going to get a chance to preview any of my footage or my thoughts before you guys get a chance to see this video on YouTube. So with that disclosure out of the way, let's talk about the Hoka Mach X3, and let's start with the specs. This is a 44mm stack height shoe with 5mm drop, giving us 39mm of stack height in the forefoot. And in this shoe, we have three main components. On the top layer, we're seeing PIBA. On the bottom layer, we're seeing a firmer material, which I believe is EVA. And in between these two layers, there is a plate, and it's made out of Pebax. And there's three different windows that you could see into the plate, and kind of the depth of each of these windows also gives you an idea as to the angle at which this Pebax plate is placed within the shoe. Now, in addition to the different foams that they're using here, they're using a couple of other things to help guide the run experience. And there are some very big sidewalls, which has been a very distinctive feature of all of the Mach X versions that we've seen, and these big sidewalls that are on each side of the ankle are helped to keep that ankle from moving too much as your foot hits the ground, and to let you know that this shoe has some motion control elements in it. We're also seeing a little window into the side of the shoe over here, which gives us a view of that Pebax plate, and this Pebax plate has a little bit of a wing to it. It's another indication that this Pebax plate that's in here is there for stability and motion control, and not necessarily for what you might think a carbon fiber plate is supposed to do. Now, we've got a decent amount of rubber on the outsole of the shoe to protect all of this midsole foam. We do have a lot of exposed foam areas and no rubber in the areas where obviously those windows are, where we had a chance to look into that Pebax plate. And the layout of this rubber outsole is very similar to what we've seen not only in previous Mach X versions, but also to what we've seen in the Mach 6. They're not identical, but a lot of the ideas are the same here. Now, moving to the top, we have a woven upper, which looks like it was directly ported, at least as far as the silhouette goes, from the Mach 6. But the materials that are in the Mach X3 seem to be a little bit kind of stronger and less stretchy, which I think would be consistent with a shoe that you're going to be running a little bit faster in, something that you're going to be using for workouts. You are looking a little bit less at comfort and a little bit more at materials that are going to hold your foot into place. Now, as far as the tongue goes, this year they've gone with a little bit more of a padded tongue. It's pretty straightforward, very lightweight, just a little bit of padding at the top. It's not gusseted at all, so it does kind of move around a little bit, but that also helps keep things light and keeps the amount of material that's in the middle of the foot to a minimum. Around the heel cup, we have a nice Achilles flare in the back here, just like we saw in the Mach 6, and there is a small amount of padding. And otherwise, there's a little bit of structure in the back of this heel cup, but it's not super egregious. And overall, I feel like there's plenty of room so that the shoe is not going to be touching against the back of your Achilles. As far as sizing goes, with Hoka, that's one of the few brands where sometimes I'm at my usual running shoe size, sometimes I like to be a half size up. For this shoe, I went with my regular running shoe size, and that worked out really well for me. The fit of this shoe feels really nice. It feels tailored without feeling excessively snug. It feels like the shoe is giving me a really good fit, and overall, I find it to be very comfortable. Now, in terms of total weight, as this shoe comes together, Hoka has been giving the weights of their shoes in men's size 10. I'm a reference size, US men's size 9, and for all of my YouTube videos, I always like to give the weights in terms of reference sizes. So for my US men's size 9 on my scale, this shoe came in at a measured weight of 9.4 ounces or 266 grams. And for reference, that's 1.8 ounces heavier than the Mach 6. Now that we've talked about what the shoe is like on paper, let's talk about what it's like on the road. If you've liked previous versions of the Mach X, I think this is going to be a very safe update for you. And if you've liked it before, you're going to continue to like it. The landing on the shoe is very stable and predictable, whether you're landing in the heel or in the forefoot. And the meta rocker works really nicely with the way that this shoe is set up, especially if you're landing in the midfoot or in the heel. And I think that the PIBA provides a very pleasant sense of softness and responsiveness at the same time. Now, coming into this review, I'm a little bit later than everybody else, so while I try to avoid reviews of shoes that I'm planning to review myself, I did hear that this is basically an upper update on this shoe, and I do think that changing an upper can change how a midsole feels, even if it's otherwise identical. But I think that the PIBA is a little bit softer in this shoe. It feels a little bit more pleasant, especially the kind of slower that I go in it, the more that I'm feeling the softness, to the extent that when I'm walking around, or if you wanted to use this shoe casually, I think that the PIBA would make for a very comfortable experience. But as far as running goes, I still find that this shoe is a little bit more firm than I think it needs to be. I think the ratio of the soft and responsive PIBA foam and the firm stabilizing EVA is just way off. There's just way too much of the firm stuff. And so ultimately I get the sensation that this isn't necessarily a speedy shoe like Hoka is kind of marketing it and telling us that's what it is. It feels to me like it's a daily training shoe that has a lot of motion control or stability elements in it. At easy paces, I feel like it's easy enough to get along with. I feel like I can eventually get into a rhythm with it, and I find it to be a pretty compliant and agreeable experience. And I do like it more than last year's version. I think the enhanced softness of the shoe makes it for a more comfortable experience for me than last year. But overall, Hoka is marketing this as an up-tempo trainer or a shoe that you could use for speed work. And having run in this shoe, that's just not something that I would reach for this shoe to do. So it leaves me with the feeling that I don't understand why this shoe is called the Mach X. Because this is the regular Mach. This is Mach version 6, and this is a lightweight, responsive, but also cushioned shoe that I enjoyed from everything from easy runs to long runs and any kind of tempo work that I might want to throw some pace changes into. I felt like the Mach 6 was a really fun and lightweight, agile shoe that I could have a lot of fun in. And so when we take the idea and we want to take that kind of very versatile, but also on the speedy end of daily training shoes and kind of Xify it, we're getting a shoe that has a plate in it, or we're getting a shoe that has some PIBA in it, but instead of it feeling even faster or feeling even speedier or more agile or more lightweight than the Mach, we have a shoe that feels controlled. We have a shoe that feels stabilized, a shoe that tends to disagree with me when I'm trying to run with it faster, and it's also a lot heavier of a shoe. So it's kind of not really a X version of a shoe, it's an alt version of a shoe. Like if you couldn't run in the Mach 6 because maybe it was too unstable for you, then the Mach X is the shoe that you should reach for instead. And I just find that to be really a confusing way to be using the X suffix for shoes within the Hoka ecosystem. Now, before we wrap up this video, let's take a moment to zoom out and see where the Mach X3 fits within the broader Hoka lineup. And whenever I take a look at a brand, I always like to start with the daily trainer. And from Hoka, that is the Clifton. This is the Clifton 10. It is designed to be the shoe that you reach for on most of your runs on most of your days. And then for days where you want a little bit more comfort, that's where a max cushion shoe comes in. And from Hoka, that is the Bondi. This is the Bondi 9. I'm actually really happy with the update to the Bondi 9 in this generation. I think they could have pushed it a little bit further, but I'm happy with where this Bondi 9 ended up. And then as far as racing goes, there's a couple of options from Hoka right now. One of them is the Rocket X3. This is a shoe that I actually haven't tested yet. Hoka sent it to me in the wrong size, but once this video is over, I'm going to be returning this one, and hopefully Hoka will be sending me a correct size Rocket X3 instead, so I can tell you more about that one. But the Rocket X3 fits in as the racing shoe. And then there are sometimes days in your training block where you want to go a little bit faster than you might want to in a daily trainer, but maybe it's not quite a day that you're going to bust out the racing shoes, and that's where an up-tempo trainer or a speed work shoe comes in. And from Hoka, at least according to Hoka, that would be the Mach X3, so it fits in between. It has some race materials in it, like the PIBA top layer and a plate, like the P-Bax plate that's in here, but it also has some durability built into it, like a daily trainer does, so that way you could use it more frequently instead of having to use up precious miles on your race day shoes. And so this is one potential lineup that you could put together using Hoka shoes. But Hoka has been around for a while and they have lots of options that they offer. And so there are some alternatives that you could slip in and out for each of these shoes that I have here. And let's start again with the daily trainer. So if you are running in the Clifton, and I feel like the Clifton 10 was an update that I actually didn't like. I felt like it got very stabilized compared to some previous years. But if you need a little bit more stability than what the Clifton 10 provides, then Hoka also offers the Skyflow. And so that's a shoe that I would use instead of the Clifton as a daily trainer if I wanted some light stability. Now they also have a full stability shoe that fits in the daily trainer space. That would be the Arahi, but I don't run in stability shoes because I don't like stability things. So the Skyflow is about as close to a stability shoe from Hoka that I'd like to get into, and that is one possible alternative. And then another alternative from Hoka that we've been kind of talking about this entire video is the Mach. And so the Mach has been given to us as a daily trainer, and this is my favorite daily trainer that Hoka makes. It's lightweight, it's fun, it's fast, it's comfortable. I could use it for a bunch of things. And then if you don't like what the Bondi 9 has to offer, if you want something a little bit extra, something a little bit more than that, Hoka has something for you too, and that is the Skyward X. Now this is a shoe that, kind of like the Mach X, uses some regular running shoe materials and then some updated race type running shoe materials, and there is a carbon fiber H plate in here to stabilize the really big stack height and the big amount of comfort in this shoe. Some people can go fast in this shoe. I'm not one of those people because to me this is kind of on the big side. It is stabilized in a way because of that H plate that's in here and also because of the width of the shoe, and it is on the heavier side. But if I were to pick kind of the best price no object kind of max cushion shoe from Hoka, the Skyward X is the one that I would pick. Now in the tempo category, Hoka, I guess they still make the Rincon, but the Rincon kind of used to fit in this space because it was even lighter than the Mach and a lot more stripped down. These days, I think it's turning into a bit of a budget shoe. So I really, because I don't like the Mach X3 as a tempo trainer, I really don't think Hoka has a tempo trainer in the lineup, but they also have some very good racing shoes, and these days racing shoes aren't quite as fragile and delicate as they were maybe in like 2017, 2018. And so I would just slide the racing shoe over and use a 3-shoe rotation if I were to build a Hoka rotation for myself. And there also is an alternative to the Rocket X3, and that is the Cielo X1 2.0, which is a shoe that I've been enjoying quite a bit. It's very fun, very fast, racing materials, carbon fiber plate, upper that fits really well. And so this is the 3-shoe lineup that I would put together ideally if I were to use all Hoka shoes. Now let's wrap up this video by going over the buying guide, and we'll also discuss some alternatives. I'm personally a bit annoyed at this shoe because of the disconnect that I'm feeling between the Hoka Mach X name and the Hoka Mach X shoe that we've been getting. But all names aside, the Hoka Mach X3 is a lightly stabilized daily trainer using updated materials that provides a comfortable and predictable ride. And when viewed in that light, I do think that the Mach X3 does a pretty good job of being a lightly stabilized daily trainer. But at the full retail price of $190, I'm not sure that I'm going to be able to recommend that to a lot of people. If you are interested in what the Mach X3 does but want to save a couple of bucks, I'll say go back and look at last year's Mach X2 because that is now on sale at $152. Or if you're looking for the lightest, fastest, most fun Mach in the Hoka family, I'd say look at the Mach 6. There are some colors of this shoe, because it's been out for a very long time without an update at this point. Some colors are available at $112. Now, let's also discuss some of the alternatives that are out there on the market. Now, the first shoe that I will talk about is a shoe that I kind of also have a problem with the name of it versus what they're delivering in the shoe. And I'm trying to separate that out from how good the shoe is doing at what the shoe seems to be designed to do as far as the way the shoe is set up. And this shoe is from Adidas. This is the Boston 13, which I reviewed very recently. And I am hoping that there are more similarities to these two shoes other than the fact that they are very similarly designed and colored. But in this shoe, we have a racing foam up top, we have a EVA-based foam on the bottom, and then we have a stabilizing element in the form of energy rods, which are not a carbon fiber plate, but are a stiffening and stabilizing element. And we also have a little window to that stabilizing element on the side of the shoe. And I feel like I would use both of these shoes very similarly. I'd say of the two, the Boston 13 is much softer, much more comfortable for me, and I get along with it a lot better. I would say as far as which shoe I'd rather run faster in, the real answer is kind of neither, but I might give the slight edge to the Mach X3. If you'd like to get into the Boston 13, it's available now at a price of $160. Now, the other shoe that I'd like to compare against the Mach X3 is a shoe that I think has a very similar kind of genesis and also missed execution. And this shoe comes from ASICS. This is the Sonicblast. Now, both of these shoes, when looking at the Sonicblast versus the Mach X3, we've got a premium foam up top and we've got an EVA foam on the bottom, and they each are stabilized by a P-Bax plate. Both the Sonicblast and the Mach X3 had the same kind of genesis problem. They each had a base shoe that was really exciting as a daily trainer. Lightweight, fun, snappy. You could go short, you could go long, you could go slow, you could go fast. And people thought, what if we put a plate in it? And so the brands finally relented and put a plate in it. And in both of these situations, we kind of got what we asked for, and it ended up being not what we thought we wanted. And I think for me, at least, I think the reason why I'm having such a hard time with these shoes and why I'm always having such a disconnect with kind of what the goal was and what the result was is that I don't think these shoes are designed for me. All these shoes feel very stabilized to me. They always feel kind of like the stable alternative to another more fun shoe that I actually prefer in the lineup. And when I look at them in that light, I feel like these are fine shoes to exist. I'm not mad at them for existing. I just don't feel like they live up to kind of the hype that the brands have all kind of attached to each of these shoes. If you're someone that's looking for a little bit of stabilization in your daily trainers, I think these are shoes that you're going to like a lot more than I do. But for me, these shoes just don't feel right. So those are my thoughts on the Mach X3. Let me know if you have any comments about this shoe or any of the shoes that I talked about today, or better yet, stop by the live stream that I do Mondays and Thursdays over on the Kofuzi Run Club channel. I'd love to see you guys over there in the chat. That's all for today, everybody. Thanks so much for making it all the way to the end of this video. Hopefully you guys are staying safe out there on your runs, and I will see you in the next one.
Yo, what's going on?